Door Grow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing in business and life, and you're open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a door grower. Door grower property managers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow, along with Sarah Hull, co-owner and COO of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. So our guest today, we're hanging out with Brian Bean, who's one of our clients. And Brian, your company is Dream Big Property Management.
That's right. We're in Merced, California.
All right, in Merced, California. So Brian, welcome to the show. Oh, Riverside. You said Riverside. Okay, got it. I know this area. So yeah, I grew up in Rancho Cucamonga, so just a little bit near there. So Brian, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into property management, and then eventually how you stumbled across DoorGrow, I guess. So
Right. So I was a newspaper editor and reporter. And I got a job, grew up in the Pacific Northwest, got a journalism degree, got a job in Palm Springs on the daily newspaper, and moved to California in the 80s. And so I did that for 13 or 14 years. Toward the end, coming from an entrepreneurial background, my uncle gave me my first, second, and third job when I was a kid. He owned a old style service station, so I grew up in that small business atmosphere. And when I went to work in newspapers, I had these lofty aspirations, these utopian ideas. You're a kid in your 20s about doing something to change the world, or to have an impact. And I found out after about 10 years that it's just another corporate job. And so I was looking around for something else, and I looked at a lot of different businesses, and I ended up coming upon real estate. And I was able to, while I was a newspaper editor, I was able to buy two 5-unit apartment buildings in Palm Springs.
Nice.
And that was my introduction to property management. I was pretty much doing that during the day. We were putting out newspapers from like 3 in the afternoon to midnight. The press would roll at midnight.
yeah.
And I did it all. From everything from dealing with the tenants face to face to, patching drywall to whatever, collecting rents, chasing rents, made all the mistakes. And it was self-education, trial by fire. And then a few years later, I went into real estate full-time in sales. I had a partner in the apartments who was actually the listing agent on those apartments at the time. But he invited me into real estate full-time in 2001. And then we were off and it was a run. And so I did property management for a while on our own properties, and then I just morphed into sales, and we were pretty successful and very busy, and then the market crashed, and we just kind of moved with the market.
And when was that? Like 2006 maybe? Or
yeah, so 2006, at least in our area, it was August 2006 when we peaked sales wise. And in 2007, we had, I don't know, a dozen listings, and you couldn't buy a showing.
Yeah.
And so 2007, it was the real estate market was, dead man walking. There was nobody really knew that what was happening. Well, the masses, right? Some people knew, right? There was stuff going on, obviously, on Wall Street, but the masses didn't know what was happening. Prices stayed up for a while, and it was just like that hovering just before you throw a ball in the air and it just kind of floats at the apex for a moment
Right.
before 2008. And then, wow, right? Who knew?
Yeah.
So, we just kind of morphed with it. I helped a lot of people with short sales. We worked in foreclosures, and then I met my current business partner in sales, working in an REO house as a buyer's agent, and we started our own company, Dream Big Real Estate. And that was 2008, 2009. So
Yeah.
from there, a couple of years later, I just happened to say to my partner, even though we were very busy, I said, I really think we should launch a property management division. And because at that time, my mentality was, it's a breeding, it's a place where we can create sales listings, right? And so we did that for a few years. And the interesting thing about it was that we didn't do any marketing. It was just really word of mouth. But the day that I mentioned that to my partner, Tim, he just said, yeah, cool, whatever, right? He knew I was going to probably be working on it because I had the background in it. But I didn't tell anybody. And the next day, the phone rang, and our first property management client just was calling out of the blue. Still have them, still work with them. And then a week later, somebody else called, and it was the same thing. And that was our second client, still working with them as well. And it's, what does Jim Rohn say? I'm not into rubbing crystals or sleeping under pyramids, but you ask the universe, and the universe will provide. Did I lose you guys?
Yeah. I don't know what happened. Somebody else logged. All right. Are
There
we
we go
back?
now.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
I don't know. Somebody else logged in as me or something. Might be somebody
Yeah.
on my team. I don't know what happened. So, yeah. So, one of the things that you mentioned, Brian, that I think is really interesting is it sounds like part of your journey, like there's this importance you've probably realized in partnerships, because you've mentioned multiple times, you partner with the listing agent, and then eventually you partner with Tim. And so how is finding the right partners been instrumental in your growth and your progress?
Well, I think I will say this is that later on, more recently this year, I have broken out the property management business that was running as part of our real estate sales business. I've broken that out separately, and I'm now solo doing that.
Right.
I have had partners in the past, and I have found working with partners to be there's advantages and disadvantages.
Totally.
It's hard to find. It's really difficult for partnerships to be successful, because most people, the egos get in the way, or there becomes a battle about who's doing what, who deserves this, who deserves that.
Yeah.
I am
meeting goals.
Yeah. Personality wise, I'm kind of roll with it person, I'm more of a solution oriented person. Just what we need to get from point A to point B. What's the best way to do that? What for the good of the company, not necessarily for what's best for me personally.
Yeah.
So I have been able to, even though I've gone through a couple of partnerships with different people, I have been able to make that work from my point of view, because of my personality type, I think. But not everybody. It is not for the weak-hearted. It is. Some days are a lot harder than others. And
yeah, I've seen some of the most successful I've seen have really healthy partnerships, and some of the worst situations I've seen where they couldn't grow because one was like an anchor, not willing to move, and they had just as much decision making power. And until they were able to get that partner out of the business, they weren't able to progress. So it can be a boost in the positive, but it's really difficult to find a really good match. So yeah.
It is.
So
And that's the thing is like I'm more of a behind the scenes person just in general. I'm more operator like
mm,
I can implement. I have I you know I generally will have the ideas as well, but I'm the one that I'm kind of a control freak, quite frankly. And
yeah.
so I need my uh, one of my character flaws is right now that I'm trying to work on is feeling like I need to touch everything. You know,
Yeah.
because that is a throttle in the business. So.
Well, I
Mhm.
think we all start there. Every entrepreneur starts there. So everybody listening should be able to empathize with that because,
Mhm.
we want to do a good job because we care. We want to look good. We care about how we look, right? Like whatever it is. But and so the challenge with being a control freak is trust. And until we learn how to get and find people that we feel safe with, I don't think we're supposed to trust, We're not supposed to just trust blindly. We need to find people that deserve to be trusted and know how to build that team. And that's probably kind of the next level, right? Is for you maybe is to build that team of people that you trust. Because when you get really great people, it's not hard to trust them,
Yeah.
but they need to match you. Like they need to be a good culture, and then it's a lot easier to trust them. And so in this journey, you split out your business, and then you have a property management business. It's all yours. You're still doing real estate stuff also? You still connected to that?
I am, but it's my mentality has shifted from the two. It's probably been more than 2 years since the first time I talked to someone from your company,
Mm,
and yet we didn't start with your company until when was it? March this year.
mm,
It was a 2 year lag of wrapping my mind around the philosophy of just making the shift, right? Because property management always for us was a just a holding place for future sales listings, and now, no, it's the business. Property management is the business, and sales is ancillary benefit.
So what
Mhm.
prompted that shift? Like how did your brain work that out eventually?
Uh, I think it's a combination of a variety of things. Having now 20 plus years in the business, I've been through an up and a down and an up and a flat, right? We're about ready
Mm,
to maybe, who knows what the next one looks like. Is it
right.
80s, 90s, or is it 2000s downturn?
Yeah.
And where I am in life, right? I mean, if do I want to work forever, just slinging, right? Do I want to be out there, showing opening doors at 68 years old? No.
Hunting, chasing deals. Yeah.
So mailbox money, right? Building a business that's sellable. Uh,
Mm,
being able to uh, right now, or up until this point, I should say, it has been 100% every dollar that comes into our house is product of my labor, and that is a train coming down the tracks, right?
mm.
So I needed to make some changes about um, my now that would have dramatic impacts on my future if I wanted to change what I was doing, which I
Yeah.
do.
Got it. Yeah, that switch from kind of recognizing you're kind of trading time for dollars to
Yes.
to realizing, hey, maybe I want to build something. I mean, it's really tempting because you close one real estate deal. That can be a lot of money. But eventually I think there's a lot of real estate agents that wake up to this, that they're like, hey, if real estate kind of takes a nosedive, or do I want to do this forever? Maybe not. Property management might be a really great business model.
We like I said, we did our sales under Better Homes and Gardens now, and I don't know, did I say that? Maybe in my own head. So the property management is under my own brokerage. The
Yeah.
sales that we do, we work under Better Homes and Gardens.
Mm,
Uh, I, Tim and I, as sales agents here, until this year, we've been the number one agent like since we came here. So 7, 8 years, however long it's been. Uh, but that you can't really. I do see the changes. I have seen the changes coming, and perhaps it's a little bit of uh, just uh, scar tissue, mental scar tissue from the crash of 8, 9, 10, 11.
yeah.
It's just because the cracks have been forming in the foundation of this real estate sales market for a few years, right? And it's been propped up artificially by government policies
Yeah.
for 3, 4 years, right? And so I've been waiting for a shoe to drop, quite frankly. And so 2 years ago, a guy I used to work for you, his last name was Ray. It was James Ray, Jim Ray,
John
one
Ray.
of your sales.
John Ray.
Mhm.
Yeah.
John, right? John. I called John back in like February this year. Hey, John, you still working over at DoorGrow?
Yeah.
John was actually the one who said to me 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, if you do this, our expectation is that you're going to change your philosophy. You're going to be a property manager who doesn't do sales. What? That took me a while to embrace.
Yeah. Yeah. John's a good friend of mine. We just went out to lunch recently. He's a really sharp dude. So, I'm really curious, Brian, this journey from being a reporter for a while to real estate to now shifting your identity into being a property manager, and that's the focus. How do you feel the reporter in you helps the property manager?
Yeah, perfect proving ground. This training, because of it's who I am, is based on education, information gathering, being an advocate for consumers, right? That's what I was trained to be as a reporter and editor, as a journalist. And that just morphs perfectly into what I do now, which is to look after my clients' financial well-being, right?
Mm,
And it doesn't hurt that I tend to over-explain things, right? Because that's what I do, right? Is my job is to go out and gather information and then provide it in an objective way so that people can then make the best decisions for them and their family, right? So that's being a reporter, right? It is to shine a light on the facts so that people can decide. And so rather than, sometimes you got to take them by the hand and lead them down a path, right? But educating them along the way.
yeah.
For sure. So what was the thing that made you go, all right, I'm finally going to do this. Like, I'm going to jump on board, get involved with DoorGrow, and start really focusing on this property management thing?
Yeah, so earlier this year, I had been kicking around, you're looking at numbers, right? And kicking around the idea of, how much more time do I want to do this? And there were some personal things that got into it too, because where you start, you start looking at relationships and, family, and looking at the things that are most important in your life. And priority wise, where have they been on your list? And so I decided I wanted to make some changes, and then I lost some friends and family members just in the past year. And so
Mm.
deciding that I didn't, that one of the things that I picked up in newspapers was too much, working too much. Um, that's right? Because we were pumped. So too much time in the office. UPS guys there. Spending too much time in the office and spending less time seeing family, and coming out of COVID, and it's just like a combination of a lot of things all crashing together at one time. And so it was time for me to read.
We are under attack in our house right now.
Yeah.
We have groceries being delivered, and the dog
The
thinks
dogs are going nuts. I
we're
can't hear.
dying.
This is our professional podcast, everybody. So
Anyway, so that was, some personal stuff came up, and I decided to reevaluate, and then that reevaluation turned into the taking another kick at the dog. Now, the past 10 plus years I've been doing property management, it has just been providing a supply of, say, 2 to 6 listings a year, and making that shift. I don't know. It was a conversation with my wife, and running numbers and trying to figure out, like, is it even possible? And there's a transition period, because what you focus on is what you get, right? Mm-hmm. So if I start focusing 100% on property management, how's that going to affect my income because what I do today in sales, that's not income for 90 days, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point, you have to be able to make that transition. And so, it was a bit of a leap of faith. And so, like I said, when I called John to ask if he was still working with you guys, then he said no. He called me back though, but he said no, but he then referred me over to somebody.
Yeah.
But Justin, maybe. Justin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Terrible with names. So, but making that switch was it wasn't an overnight decision by any means. It was I agonized over it. It was sleepless nights, some nights, but I knew that I had to do something. So.
Well, you took a big risk then, this leap of faith, and then jumped on board with DoorGrow, decided to focus on property management. You feel like you made a good choice?
Yes. It's like unconscious incompetence, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so I've been on a journey of learning what other people are doing, best practices, ancillary services to go along, support type pieces of everything from other streams of income that are related, that are, not just management fees and placement fees, right? I mean, there's a variety, but it's crazy what I've implemented just in the past 6 months. It's just been an insane pace, and I'm like 8 days away from moving to a new property management portal. So, and that will be the cherry on top, really, so that I can most of the footwork of putting the foundation together will be mostly done, and then it's digging into processes.
Awesome. Yeah. So, so you've made a lot of changes to your business, and you said you've been learning it at an insane pace. So hopefully we're not making you bored with all the stuff. We've got plenty of stuff, right? It can be a bit overwhelming. We get the feedback on. So, Brian, well, what's next for you in the future? What do you see in your business?
Right now, I'm just trying to continue to learn from you, and I'm just focusing on growing the number of doors that we manage and creating a business that will have sustainable and continuous growth. And then I could see part of the process has been, yes, putting the tools in place and doing the things that I've been advised to do to create this and grow this business. But when you start, it's hard to have you don't necessarily believe it, right? You just kind of it truly is that leap of faith. And over time, my belief is starting to catch up with my activity. And so, to go, like, when last week we literally hit the doubling point of when we started with you. And after 10 years of just being flat, from 30 to 35 units, sometimes, pretty much 30 to 35 units for 10 years.
Wow.
And then now literally doubled it last week. And that's been from following your instruction, your philosophies, and focusing on building this business. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that the next 30 doors didn't take 10 years. So.
Yeah. Really, it took just 4 months.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Doubling in 4 months. And I think things will speed up from here. So,
I think so.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's a good place to end on. I think that's really awesome. So we appreciate you as a client. It's been great seeing your progress. I think there's a lot of property managers out there that are like you. They come from the real estate industry. They want to get out of the hunt and the chase. Maybe they've been doing property management for even a decade, but they haven't really made progress in their growth significantly in the last year or 2 or 3 or 10, and now maybe it's time. So maybe some parting words, Brian. What would you say to those that, like, they've been watching Door Grow for a while? They've, like, you saw us, you were aware of us for a while. What would you say to them?
Don't wait. Where would I be if I'd started 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I think about that occasionally, and then I have to stop myself because that just takes me off track, and you get into that regret, loop in your head. Like, no, I don't have time for that. I am where I am now, and everybody is where they are now, right? And so you can either take action today or not. Your results will reflect that.
Yeah, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment. That's what because I can do that to myself too. I can go back and oh, what if I did this sooner?
It could be so much farther,
right? Yeah. But I think that things just tend to work out the way that they're supposed to work out, and things kind of line up. And I think you were prepped, right? You knew about Door Grow. You were kind of checking it out. You weren't sure if you were going to make that jump, and you did when you were ready, and it paid off.
Yeah,
exactly.
So there's a cool book called The Gap and the Gain, and the concept is kind of this concept that, and it's by Dan Sullivan, and the idea is that it's so easy for us as entrepreneurs to focus on the gap between where we should be by now, right? But where our dream or what we could have done, and that's not really an effective comparison psychologically. Like that. Like, doesn't make us feel super great about ourselves. But what is effective though is to look at the gain. How far have we come? And I mean, in 4 months, you've come a long way. And so the next year, I think, is going to be really awesome for you. So I'm excited to see what you do, Brian. So
thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming on the Door Grow Show.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Thanks again.
All right. If you are a property management entrepreneur, you're wanting to grow your business, maybe you've been sitting stagnant for a while, you haven't had significant progress in the last year, maybe the year before that. You might even be a really large company and you're not making progress. I've talked to several with thousands of doors in just the last week. We just got one of them on as a client, and they've been struggling to figure out how to grow, and they cannot even spend any more money on ads to get any more clients. It's not working. If you want to figure out how to start moving your business forward significantly, we can easily help you add 100, 200, maybe even 300 doors in a year. And it's without wasting money or spending money on advertising. And that might sound ridiculous, but Brian's going to do it. Like, we're seeing people do it all the time. So reach out. You can check us out at doorgrow.com. We would love to help you grow your business. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.